Hello and welcome to the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Robert Bowlesby here with you. You can tweet me at rbowlesbyjr. You can tweet the Greater STL Sports Network at Greater STLSN. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Greater STL One Word Sports Network, or you can now find us on Ustream. rbowlesbyjr is the account, and you can watch us live when we do our live streams, which are put on Facebook and Twitter for the times they're going to come out. We're going to talk a lot of Cardinals and Rams, probably a whole hour if we go longer than that, of nothing but Cardinals and Rams talk. Of course, we'll hit some weird news. We'll hit some independent sports teams, the hometown rundown, and of course a potpourri after that. But let's just start off with the Cardinals. And aren't you getting a little scared that the wheels are starting to fall off maybe a little bit? I mean, it's just something to worry about. Because the two strengths that we talked about consistently on this show, and just about you've heard on every sports talk radio show, is that the strengths are the pitching and the defense. Well, you've lost that with the bullpen and your defense. And there's nothing to overcome that kind of stuff when your team isn't hitting. I mean, you've lost games basically just off of defense lately. You had a pitcher to come out, pitch hit, get a hit, and beat you. These are things that can't happen with a team that can't hit. And I don't quite understand what's going on in the bullpen other than they've probably been used too much. The defense has been a little suspect. Definitely Wong and Carpenter. I mean, Wong almost has 15 errors this year. And they kept saying, oh, he's only had one error since then. Since this, I think it was August 1st, he only had one error, or July 1st, excuse me. But yet, they don't say it like that was his last error. No, they talk about he's only had one error in the meantime. Well, the problem is that error was like a week ago, and now he's got 3 in less than a week. So, we were maybe riding the Colton Wong train, and we were probably riding it a little too hard. We jumped on a bandwagon and didn't want to let go because we have nothing else. But now, just to get days off for guys, which wasn't a problem before, now you're throwing guys like Moss in the outfield, Reynolds at third, and for some odd reason, Mark Reynolds has lost it at third base. Another wagon we were riding with his defense. Oh my God, look how great Mark Reynolds has played at defense. We haven't seen it. We haven't ever seen this before. He can play outfield easily. He can play third base. And now he's costing you games at third base. I mean, this is a lineup where I understand how many guys you lost, but to lose a rookie, and then only Jason Hayward for a couple of days, and for this lineup to look like an expansion team's lineup, look like the old Marlins lineup from the 90s. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that you have nothing behind that. And you have nothing behind that. You have Greg Garcia and Xavier Scruggs. Scruggs can only play first base, and you can trust Garcia at certain spots, but I don't know if you could trust him long term. And you don't need him long term, you just need him to produce. And for some reason the Cardinals have lost all faith in him being a bench player. Same thing they've done with Peter Borges. Peter Borges, is this your 9th inning? Come out and spell who's ever the crappy outfielder that is that night. Right now, because Grich is gone, jumping in the center and just holding that spot down when we have the lead. But he doesn't get starts anymore, which is beyond me. You throw Moss out there, you throw Reynolds out there, but you're not giving a guy who had a lot of high hopes coming here. If you remember when he first came here in the David Freese trade, Albert Pujols said Borges is a guy that can hit 20 home runs. And we've used him in the most random spots. Mostly to sub out Holiday in the later innings. And either bat your pitcher third in 1 or 2 run games, or bat him third and run a 2-run game. Something you don't want. But that's seemingly what he's been relegated to. I mean, if you look at this bullpen, a guy like Manus is probably just getting overused. I mean, over the last 7 games, 6 1/3, 4 earned runs, 11 hits, 5 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. Them aren't Seth Manus numbers. But he's starting to struggle. Choke can't get anybody out. He's coming in there and he's hitting the left-handers. That's how the run scored the other night. And then he comes in, allows a hit, and he's gone. Or he walks somebody and it's gone. Over his last 15 games, we'll go a little farther just to try to keep it with Manus, but basically in his last 6 innings also, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. 5.11 ERA over his last 30 games. Now, you can't have your left-handed specialist not be able to get left-handers out. Because you don't trust him to get right-handers out. You haven't since you've got him. You tried it a couple of times and it didn't work. And you basically lost all faith in him doing that. So even with the additions of Broxton and Cechek, you have to worry about the rest of your bullpen because you've overworked Kevin Segras. Seth Manus is faltering. ERA up to 4.13, excuse me. Chose is at 4.11. So something I never thought I'd say or even repeat 2 weeks in a row is that the key to this bullpen now becomes Tyler Lyons. And since he's been up, you were kind of like, where was he at until that 2/3 of an inning game that Lynn recently had that we haven't talked about yet, which was a game that Matt Carpenter made an error that kind of set the rails off in that game. Lackey's last start, he had 3 errors that set the rails off in that game. Martinez last night with the Reynolds error. The last game that you've won, you won it on a broken up double play ball. You got lucky. They got thrown away. Piscotty scores, gives you the 2-1 win against the Giants. And for a team with suspect base running, that's one thing you didn't suspect either. And it was Brandon Moss that broke up the double play. So you run with base running some lucky way. But you cost yourself in every other area that you've been good at. Bullpen and defense. And people think that this Matt Adams coming back is really just going to set the world on fire when he comes back. But I'm telling you, when he has that first week and he comes back and you see him have a couple over 4 games, 2 or 3 strikeouts in the game, the BFIB's going to go crazy and, oh, why did we replace him? But right now you're begging for it. Oh, Matt Adams is coming back in September. I don't understand what you expect to get out of him. I don't know what you would expect to get out of Holiday. I don't even know what you expect to get, even though he's never really came down too much this season, been up and down, but it's kind of the way he's gone. I don't know what you expect from Grichuk as he's starting to become an off-injured player. So you might be relying on players that have been on the DL, some for months. And then one, even though he was a star when he left, and Randall Grichuk, you don't know what you're going to get from him. A lot of people clamoring happy that John Jay's back, something you never thought you would hear. I'm actually kind of happy about Jay having a chance to come back because he's the one guy on this team that I think could be an effective pitch hitter. He's proved it. I think John Jay's is one of the players that doesn't need the everyday player time to keep up what he can do. Now, he's not going to go out there and hit you big dramatic home runs all the time. He's not going to go out there and get a bunch of extra base hits. But most of the time when you're looking at pitch hitters, you just want a base hit. A guy that can get hit by a pitch. A guy that would take a walk. And that's kind of something that you need just in general. Your leadoff hitter, Chris Carpenter. Matt Carpenter's batting in the 260s right now. Your guys that you've been kind of thrown all over the place, but been mostly your second hitter in Colton Wong, he's down in the 250s. All them players that were batting 300 at the beginning of the season where you're like, oh my God, look at the Cardinals. Even though they're not scoring runs, they're all still getting on base and hitting the ball. None of them are 300 anymore. There's not one everyday player on the Cardinals in the lineup that they throw out that's batting 300 except for Steven Piscotty. The one guy you probably just from now on just need to leave alone. You put him in the 5th or 6th spot, maybe get him up there as high as 2nd. I wouldn't go no lower than 6th. And let him go out there and do what he's doing. 307, 2 home runs, 13 RBIs, 6 doubles. You'll take that day in and day out from all your players. And he's a rookie that's been, even though he's been highly touted over the first few minor league years of him, he hasn't been a guy that's been brought up yet to prove what he's going to do. Now he's up here proving it. But the problem is Matheny, for some reason in his mind, has to mess with this lineup. And I understand it, get it going. But when you got a guy hitting, I understand you don't want to put Reynolds or Molina down there in the A spot because it's hard to bunt them over. But I think that's done. The pitchers are going to have to hit. You have nothing else. You almost kind of miss like seeing Wainwright out there being able to hit. Guys like Jason Marquis, Kyle Loesch wasn't all that bad of a hitter. You're kind of missing them kind of guys because your whole offense is stuck in a rut. So, and you're going to try to bunt Molina or Reynolds over if they're batting 7th and the 8th guy gets out. That's what's going to happen. So it's kind of a moot point. Even though you don't want to bunt in the double plays or you don't want your pitcher to be swinging the double plays. I mean, it's a moot point now because this offense is just so bad. Mike Matheny, for the first time in the regular season since he's been here, looks lost. And the problem is, with all the injuries and stuff, he's going to keep looking lost because he's going to keep messing around with the lineup. He's going to keep trying to throw as many different guys to get bullpen time out there to try to keep them fresh, but put your best foot forward. And the thing that still kind of bugs me about him saying that he's got to send the relievers out there, they got things in their contracts for certain appearances, certain saves, blah, blah, blah. That's got to go out the window now, too. Because now you have to be in 30 games over 500. You have to put your best team on the field from here on out. You are only 3.5 games up in your division now. You're in an uncomfortable position that you never thought you would be in. Because how great your starting pitching is. But if your starting pitching can be so great, you have to have defense behind him, and it hasn't happened. Johnny Peralta's kind of, and the last person I should ever complain about for defense since he's been here is Johnny Peralta, but he's starting to look a step slower at short. And a long season, long grind, understandable. But Lackey was flying to the last game. He pitched 5 innings, no 1 runs. And then you get a bunch of errors spread out. And then it turns into a 5-run inning when the Cardinals were up 1-0. I mean, the Cardinals are having trouble fielding bunts. This Jurowski guy from San Diego has like 4 bunt hits in the series. You lost the game off a Reynolds throw from a bunt from a pitcher. And I don't know what it is. It seems like some guys about certain things, these guys do seem a little cocky. Wong's one. Even though maybe you're just mad when you make them errors and you get asked some stupid question. Your response is, yeah, nothing. You know, if the question was, what do you tell yourself after a game like that, after you make the 2 bad plays, and you just said nothing? But now they're having trouble fielding bunts. So are they going out and doing their due diligence, practicing in the field? I mean, you get the pictures of Holiday playing first from the workouts. You get the pictures of Piscotty playing first from the workouts. You get the pictures of Matt Adams hitting. And that's great and fine and dandy, but are they all going out there and doing it? Is Colton Wong, with his almost 15 errors this season, out there every day practicing on his craft? Practicing on turning double plays because he's having a problem with that. Practicing on keeping that glove down. Practicing on catching balls that are thrown right to your glove on a stolen base attempt. Is he out there doing them things? I don't know. And I'm not trying to clamor that they aren't, but it just seems like they seem cocky about certain things. Definitely feel it. But as you look at it from now on, your keys are going to be everybody that's on the DL, hitting-wise. And guys like Tyler Lyons and Marcus Hatley when he comes up in September. If Mitch Harris gets back here, doesn't look like Belial's coming back. If Walden gets back here, doesn't really look like he's coming back. But then you guys got guys like Cooney and Tuilava and Sokolovich. Guys like that are going to have to make a difference on the best record baseball team in the whole world. The best team in the MLB is going to get help, and a lot of help in September, or even now, I don't know who's got the options or whatever, from guys in their minor league system right now. Greg Garcia's probably going to have to make a big impact. At least get some kind of bat on the bench. Some kind of bat that you can use and trust in situations that isn't incapable of doing it. Pete Cosmo. Right now, Brandon Moss. You hardly ever see Tony Cruz. Another guy that could make a difference in that easily. Maybe even a Cody Stanley if he comes up. But you got to get some kind of stability there. Hopefully John Jay brings it. Hopefully when Adams come back and you can kind of slow down Reynolds, hopefully he can bring that. And then if you get all that though, but you still have to look at the pitching. And Tyler Lyons is going to be a big part of this team and the bullpen. And I don't think you, me, the person down the street, the person that loves the Cardinals in California or Memphis or Arkansas or anything like that, thought that Tyler Lyons is going to be a big part of the team, but he's going to be. He's going to have to be. He's going to have to be the guy that kind of stabilizes the bullpen. Because even Bill Villanueva, who was pitching great in the situation they were putting him, he's starting to struggle when he's starting to have to come in these high leverage appearances. High stressful appearances. So you see things like that, and then you've looked at the way that, even though it's only been 7 innings, and one of them was 5 innings, one of the relief, and see, he's pitched well, and he's pitched well out of the bullpen before, that's going to be the guy. I don't want to say it. The Cardinals haven't said it yet, but they're not going to say that because they're one of the teams that are quiet about anything. I'm not going to say nothing back. Tyler Lyons is not the guy. Everybody in the bullpen has their job. They're going to do it. But Tyler Lyons is going to have to be the guy. I don't see how you can go anywhere without him right now. I just don't see it. Can you name me one guy that you trust in this bullpen right now going into the postseason? It might be Chuck Newtown, Charlie Villanueva, Carlos Villanueva. Maybe, and Seagrass too. But you've already know what you're getting out of Seagrass, and he can't go every night. Maybe when we get to the playoffs, he can go more and more because you have a lot more days off. But after Seagrass, you don't trust anybody except for Rosenthal. And what's Rosenthal going to come in and pitch 2-3 innings every night? That's where you're stuck. But, like I said last week, or a couple weeks ago, the last time I did the show, that's why this September's call is going to be so important. And you're lucky that Memphis sucks. Because if they were in a playoff run type of situation, you couldn't take a lot of their players. But you're at a point now where you're lucky that they suck, because now you can just see what you have down there. And a lot of these guys have already been called up, because the rule is if they're not on your roster by a certain date or haven't been on your, they can't be on the team. So guys like Hatley, Tuliolava, Sokolovich, and players like Greg Garcia and Gregor Scruggs, if they could show you something going down the stretch, they could make this playoff roster. This could be like 2011, where you just had the most random players at random times come up and be successful. Where even though it looked like a very small trade at the time with one of your big name prospects in it, the Mark Skimski's Scrabble, Edwin Jackson's, Arthur Rhodes was a guy they acquired. I think that was off waiver though. But then that was the year that Rosenthal, Segrist, Manus, Craig, Jay, they all came up and they all put together at the right time. Even though a lot of them were here all season. Kyle McClellan was another guy. Just guys there that you didn't expect to be on a World Series roster were there putting things in for this team. And this is what you could see this year in the playoffs. You could see a Marcus Hatley make this roster for the postseason. And maybe not him, but a Tuliolava, a Sokolovich, maybe a Greg Garcia, maybe Xavier Scruggs. And all of them make it, and the key to your bullpen is Tyler Lyons. And it's just something. It's just something to see that how they go through and you never hear. I mean, Marcus Hatley's 29 years old. And even though I'm kind of going off a guy that hasn't really pitched much off here, maybe I should go with Tuliolava. These are guys you never heard about before. From Keith Law or Baseball Tonight or any other people that do that stupid power rankings of players in the minor leagues, because it's never right. It's hardly ever right. You only get lucky here and there. I mean, a lot of these players on this Cardinals roster aren't first-round picks. So it's crazy to see that they know how to do this in those later rounds, to put themselves in these kind of situations where these players can be used when needed. And no other team really has that. The only team that's maybe kind of produced something like that is the Rays. And once they get in there for that couple years, they're back out and back to dungeon dwellers again. So for a team to keep going consistently like this every year with the same problems, which it seems like every other year your top starting pitcher's out, whether it's Carpenter or Wainwright, and then you lose bats for extended period amount of time. Molina, Pujols, Holiday. And I can't remember I think it might have been 09, and the Cardinals ran through like 20 second basemen, it seemed like. Belliard was there. Felipe Yellow. It was just a travesty. But it just seems like since then, the players they plug into the positions are just as good as the players that left them positions. But if you lose one more guy, you're kind of screwed, because your top prospects were all outfielders. Grichuk, Piscotty, and then the late Oscar Taveras. And then Colton Wall was your one infield guy. The rest of them have been first baseman, Adams, Scruggs, and then the pitchers. So basically, essentially, you've lost almost your whole infield, plus catching, and then a lot of these prospects haven't been center fielders, so you're losing a lot of big positions right there by not having someone behind them. So if you get one more, they're done for, and you could keep saying that, and saying that because it hasn't happened, but if you lose an infielder, your options are Pete Cosma, because they don't trust Greg Garcia. And maybe they will if someone else gets hurt. Maybe they will if they stop throwing Moss and Reynolds in every single possible chance they can get. And maybe you get to see a chance for a guy like Greg Garcia. Or a chance for a guy like Pete Cosmo to maybe make a difference that he hasn't been able to make so far this season. But remember, you heard it from me first. The best sportscaster in St. Louis. Haha. But look for Tyler Lyons to be your stabilizer of maybe this whole team. Because you're at a point with these bullpen struggles and your fielding struggles that you have to get something to help stabilize that kind of stuff. To make it, because you're only, remember, 3.5 games up. Alright, so the Cardinals finished their series today with San Diego. Michael Wacha on the mound. Hopefully get some better defense behind him. And then you get lucky, you go 4 to Arizona. San Francisco's not the San Francisco that they've been, and then you're into the Nationals. So you're coming down a stretch to where you can maybe extend this lead a little bit. But you have to start winning games, and you have to start feeling and having a good bullpen. Alright, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and I'm going to whine about the Rams for as long as I can. This is the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Hello and welcome back to the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Robert Bowlesby here with you. You could tweet me at rbowlesbyjr, even though I wouldn't recommend it. Or you could tweet us at the Greater STL Sports Network. YouTube and Facebook, Greater STL one word, Sports Network. Or look us on our Ustream account, as I'll change the Greater STL one day, but for now it's rbowlesbyjr. Now, as you know, our Rams had a preseason game this week out, well, as they have one today, last week, out in Oakland. And of course, it's the preseason, and the Rams suck as usual. You don't have any backups ever, it seems like, to go out there and help this team win. But they go out there with a nice, pretty sign to remind everybody that they won last year in the regular season 52-0. And then the first preseason game, which, what do you expect? I'm not going to complain about too much like that. I'm going to complain about something that's been happening over the past few years that also happened in that game. But I'm not really going to complain about losing 30-3 in a preseason game. But as many penalties as this team gets on a consistent basis, do you not think that something could maybe change a little bit? Maybe you get players that don't hold, players that don't commit stupid penalties on returns or punts or kickoffs or anything that this team does to lose. And every season all you hear is, we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it, we're going to fix it. Since this regime has been here, nothing. Every game, every preseason game, every regular season game. You can't say playoffs because you would never get there if we keep having the same players that we do have. At least you try to make a difference, try to get some kind of quarterback in here that maybe could stay on the field. But of course you trade for one that's off injured too. But you can't win on a consistent basis if you're putting your team back yards or giving the other team free yards. Every single play. And that's not every single play, but every single drive at least. 14 penalties in one game. And I know it's only 10. There were only 10 that were accepted. But this is no different than what happens in the regular season with just all the first stringers out there. Every year. And you got to be worried about Greg Robinson because he was getting a lot of holding penalties. And what did people say he did a lot of in college was hold? and maybe they figured him out. Maybe they figured out how to get around him a little better than they did last year. Then you got the rest of this makeshift line of who knows who's going to play center, who knows who's going to play the guard. Saffield, of course, walks up the field on the first drive, so you don't know who's going to play your left guard now. Your right tackle either, who's probably going to be Ron Halverstein, but you have no one else to put there because you didn't go out and look at any free agents. You just went out and got guys, filler guys. Garrett Reynolds on the defense. Or, excuse me, Garrett Reynolds on the offense. I can't remember the guy they just got. They go out and draft a 5th rounder from Clemson who couldn't get together in college. And we'll go waste a pick on him for next year's draft. And Isaiah Battle. But every year they pay for just unusable talent. Well, maybe you should look at spending some of that money on the offensive line. Maybe you should look at getting some veterans in here that don't hold, that don't commit dumb penalties. Maybe your cornerbacks too, but you've already wasted $50 million on a cornerback. You wasted $50 million on a tight end, or a little less than that. We just retarded, non-smart, stupid contracts for a team that doesn't need the cornerbacks. Definitely one for Cortland Finnegan. You've never heard about Cortland Finnegan other than fighting with Andre Johnson, and then you spend $50 million, $10 million a year on Cortland Finnegan. Yeah, we don't have anybody to play center. We don't know who our 2 guards are going to be. We don't know who our right tackle is going to be. You really don't know what you're going to throw out there at wide receiver. You've lost probably your best cornerback, the one that actually makes tackles and kind of follows the ball instead of jumping on a ball 5 yards over his head to act like he was close to the play. Mr. Pick Six, Janoris Jenkins. A guy that didn't play 9 yards off the ball because I could throw a pass to a receiver for a quarterback that plays 9 yards off the ball. We'll just do that every play and just get 4th downs every 2 plays. So you lose him, so you really don't know what you're getting at cornerback, even though you do got 2 veterans there. You got your 2 guys at safety, plus Mark Barron swinging around there with McDonald and McLeod. But you don't have the most important people to protect the most important position on the field at quarterback, and which in your scheme, the second most important position guy is the running back, and who's going to protect him if you don't have an offensive line? Well, we got Jared Cook we spent a bunch of money on. Now tell me where that makes any sense at. And then your big free agent pickup is some guy that couldn't make it on the Lions or the Falcons. And then you go get a guy who's going to redshirt a year, but still he's an offensive lineman in the 5th round of the conditional draft. Guy that couldn't make it in college, so once he gets money, I guess it's going to just say, oh, I got money now. I'm not going to do that anymore. Well, it didn't. If you look at it, when they get money is when it gets worse. But the Rams are the king. Jeff Fisher's the king of turning players around, of taking players like Jenkins and Albert Haynesworth and other guys like that and turning them into good football players that don't F around off the field. They only get bad again when they leave Jeff Fisher. Well, the problem is Jeff Fisher is a 9-7 coach because he doesn't get to be a winning coach. Definitely in basically the best division of football. You need a quarterback, and if your scheme's running back, you need a running back, but you have to have people to protect them. It's going back to old Rams. It's going back to Scott Linehan, Steve Spagnuolo days, where put the guys in 8 in the box and let them float because we're going to stop them. 3 yards to cloud of dust, punt the ball, Rams score 6 points a game. I'm kind of tired of it. And what might makes it worse is what they did after the Oakland game. They decided to stay out there in California, decided to go to Oxnard to practice, which Jim Thomas said would be where their practice facility will be, to practice with the Cowboys. And you know who showed up for that to go talk to his best bud, Jerry Jones, and hang out in California so all the fans could sit there and chant Kroenke, was our great owner, who don't say he's that bad of an owner because I just explained to you the money he spent on Cortland Finnegan and Jared Cook. Because he's an owner that spends a lot of money for a football team that sucks. But he's a bad owner that he wants to get rid of our team. And then not only wants to take our team to LA, now we're going to practice in LA so all these fans come out and cheer for the St. Louis Rams and Stan Kroenke. Now, they did it right a couple years ago. If you remember, they had all them games in Jacksonville, excuse me. They were going to have all them games in overseas in London. Jacksonville was the one that took that over. But remember, we had one game out there, and people were outraged like, oh, we got other things to focus on. Well, they didn't focus on the other thing. The other thing that was focused on was LA. And it's ignorant to a fan base for a team to go and out to LA and practice and do all this and get your big show when you don't even talk to this fan base. You don't let this fan base know what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on, really, because he doesn't talk to anybody. If you talk, they had the guy coming from the Denver Post to replace Bernie in the Post-Dispatch. He said, well, you got the same thing that I got out here. Another guy I'm going to talk about in a minute, Benjamin Albright, and Benjamin Hokeman was the other guy's name for the Post-Dispatch. Benjamin Albright said, yeah, we get the same, he's a radio host in Denver, we get the same thing out here. So it's understandable, but you're not threatening to move the Nuggets. You're not threatening to move the Avalanche. You're threatening to move the Rams and playing around with the fan base, even though NFL needs no fans to make money. You really don't want to lose all your fan support, because some of the fans do cross over. You know, there's a lot of St. Louis Cardinal football fans that are Arizona Cardinal football fans. But your way to make extra money, at least, is to kind of keep involved in the fan base. And they've done none of that. Their best thing to keep involved in the fan base is say, hey, come buy season tickets for the Rams. Even though we're not going to take the banners on the dome down until 2 weeks before you come play your first preseason game. We had all season to do it. Now, you can't. St. Louis is the one that messed this up. They've had years to fix this. And then your proposal to fix the dome is $100,000. They came back with a $700,000 thing. I don't understand where you can't meet in the middle on that. The arbitrator says the Rams are right. You couldn't go back to Stan Kroenke, go back to and say, hey, can we get a new plan going? Maybe something that costs us only $400,000 to $500,000, or maybe let's start working on this new stadium on the riverfront. And maybe he hasn't responded back. But no, they didn't do that. They just said the arbitrator's wrong. And then as soon as it's LA, oh my God, we've got to struggle. We've been planning this for months. Months. Really? You have planned it for months. Why is all the land not purchased? If you have planned it for months, why is financing not finished yet? But if the guy's not going to work with you, which he won't, it doesn't seem like he works with anybody but Stan Kroenke, what do you expect? And I was on, go support the Rams. Go support the Rams. Leave that dome empty. Let them leave. Somehow, figure out what you're going to need to get a different football team here. Which most people say the best bet's the Jaguars. Go mess with the Cardinals owners who built 95% of them stadium. Get their input on it. Maybe throw them a piece. Maybe they help you. Maybe you say, maybe you build this stadium before a football team. Have them international soccer games. Have whatever you can there. So you don't tear up Busch Stadium's field and you just kick back the Cardinals. And they help you a little bit with the stadium. And I don't know if this has been thought out. Maybe that's the dumbest thing that anybody's ever heard. But it's a shot at something. You already have one of the top attended crowds in women's soccer history. You don't think they'll come to that stadium? You've had plenty of games at Busch Stadium for soccer. You don't think they'll go to that bigger stadium? On the riverfront? You could probably get whatever you wanted there to accommodate that stadium until you got a football team. I mean, this could all be playing poker too. Crockett could just be doing this until the end, until the end, until the end, until the end. Until they finally say, make your choice. And he's like, I'll stay in St. Louis. But the other thing we're missing is if Spanish for them is, he's got 9 years to figure out another plan. Because of St. Louis and inability to, I guess, to just want football here so bad, we'll just do whatever you want after a certain period of time. That's essentially what this contract said. Do whatever you want. And we expected on $1 billion to do it. We expected to keep the Rams. And you've had this in NFL. LA's now been used 20 different times for people to build stadiums. But you even remember you had the Cardinals threatening to go to Illinois over their stadium. You've also had people offer to build stadiums for you, and Anheuser-Busch, look it up, offer to build a stadium right there by Busch Stadium. City, they couldn't figure that out. We're going to pay for you to have a stadium. Nah, we'll figure it out. You know? Don't just blame this all on Stan Kroenke. There's 50-50 here. And, God, I hate Stan Kroenke. I really do. Just say something. Say I'm doing it or I'm not. And I know he can't say that because that's even going to the fan base. But maybe somebody could give us something. I mean, Kevin Dinoff, you probably, and you're not going to go at guys when they're on your radio shows, the guys on the and say, hey, what's going on with the Rams in LA? Because you want these guys to stay on your radio show and get as much info out there, but give us something to make us think it. But it's not going to happen that way. Because then he loses leverage. He loses leverage somewhere, whether it's in LA or whether it's in St. Louis. And why, as a billionaire, would you want to lose leverage when you're trying to make more money? It wouldn't make any sense. But God, to go out there to California and practice and stay out there and then show up when you hardly show up to the Edward Jones Dome? But you show up there to go practice and talk to your buddy Jerry Jones. And it's just kind of, God, it's irritating. To actually be a fan of something and just be waiting for it to leave it's just not what you want to do. I understand. But you can't just blame it on him anymore. You got to go back and look at what the city did even before he even got here. Because he just got the team a few years ago. Full team. He was like 41% owner, some crap. But, man, just something, just some glimmer of hope. Just some hope. I mean, maybe you hear something out of California, maybe someone goes and messes up, they find something wrong with that site. I do not know. But it's even causing fights between sports writers now of what's going to happen. And it really all started, which is in a crazy story. Benjamin Albright, who does a show in Denver, he's on Yahoo, he does stuff for ESPN, said on a radio show that Mark Davis did a thing to where he had the Raiders sold one day, and then the next day kind of said, I was joking. So, Vinny Bonsignore of the Daily News in LA says that's completely untrue. So they've been going at it, blah, blah, blah. This is causing fights between sports writers now what's going to happen in LA. It's crazy to think about. And that's just their problem, the sports writers. There's people that would love to have these kind of jobs and get this kind of information. They can't. But these people want to be the first to break the story. You can't. And 99% of the time, they're wrong. They're wrong on their own story. And that doesn't make any sense to me. That you would come out and then Vinny came out and said straight from the Raiders they would not move to STL. They would not play in Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, and they would not. Mark Davis would not sell a team. Saying that he would sell a team, sell part of his ownership, yeah, but wouldn't sell a team in general. Albright came back and said stopping a team comment would be an incompetent journalistic move. Vinny came back was assuming that I stopped at a team source was incredibly naive and misspoken. This is causing fights everywhere else for Benjamin Albright, who might be right, might be wrong, to be the first to break the story. And that's what they're fighting over. Yeah, we have to worry about if the money we put into a football team for so long was a waste of money. And it's not really a waste of money. You got your entertainment for your buck. Even though they've lost every game in the last 50 years, it seems like, really only the last 10 or 11 years, you still got the money, your money's worth. Don't put your money there. I would not do it. And he can go and say, well, look what they did to me. Look at the fan base. Look at the empty dome. I have to move. I'm not going to make no money here. And then the same thing's going to happen in LA. Watch. It already happened. It's already proven that after a while, we got better things to do than to worry about football. Alright, we're going to take a break. We're going to come right back with the hometown rundown of weird news next on the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Hello and welcome back to the Sports Blog on the Greater STL Sports Network. Robert Bowlesby here with you. You can tweet me at rbowlesbyjr, tweet the Greater STL Sports Network, Greater STL SN, Facebook and YouTube, one word, Greater STL, then Sports Word Space Network. Also look us up on Ustream, rbowlesbyjr. Watch our shows live. We do put them on Facebook and Twitter when we're going to go live. I forgot to mention, just to whine about the Rams a little bit more. The Rams do play tonight. Fox 2 somehow got a nationally televised game. I guess they have to do it for every team in some sort of way. But you'll probably see Nick Foles in there for 2 series. The Rams will probably score 6 points tonight maybe, and maybe only have 9 penalties. But probably 15 will be called, but after, all that crap where they decline on 3rd down, can make it 4th down, stuff like that, you'll probably only see 9 up there on the board. And the Rams can say, hey, we only had 9 penalties. So, let's go on to the hometown rundown. As the River City Rascals have been playing pretty well of late. And if you look at a team like the Rascals, and this is independent sport, we're not going to go in this forever. We're not going to go like we do deep in the Cardinals. But they're in the same position the Cardinals have been the last week. They just need bullpen help. And in a league where you got a lot of guys that need a lot of help, need a lot of maturity to even make it to even more of a minor league. They're in the minor league, independent leagues. They still need a lot of work just to get to single A, double A. So when your starters are only going 5 2/3, 6 innings, your bullpen's going to struggle when they throw a lot. Even though it seems like every single night the Rutgers are throwing different guys out there, guys you ain't never heard of all year on the roster. But now you got other guys producing on this team. Josh Ludy it's just been crazy over the last week. In the last 3 games, home run 2 RBIs, home run 4 RBIs. Zach Camoni, same thing, home run 2 RBIs, 2 RBIs and a home run. So you're starting to have other guys step up for you, other than Taylor Ard and Danny Cannella. I mean, Taylor Ard's up to 67 RBIs, 24 home runs. Cannella's right there behind him with 64 RBIs. So for a team that has to score a lot of runs to win, finally you're getting some other guys starting to produce every night for you. I mean, you already knew about Hanson, you knew about Ard, you knew about Danny Cannella. Curtin Randall is another guy that's been stepping up. And now you got a guy like Johnny Morales, Josh Ludy, the catcher. And guys that are stepping up for a team that really needs this time. These are your games in the last 2 weeks. 9-3, 5-4, 0-7. You won 5-2. 1-11-3. You had a 15-10 game, an 8-7, 6-2, 9-8, 8-7. And then you lost 6-2 last night. So you really needed a little more offense. As you see, you're letting a lot of teams score runs. I mean, you still got guys out there. Tim Coons pitched pretty well, 6 1/3 in his last start. You got a guy in Dane Stone who's been doing pretty well. I think Coons is still 7-0. You have another guy that I had his name written down, but I don't see it. But since he came at Joe Shano, he's won his last 5 starts. So you guys got you got a good thing going. You're right there on the tails, 3 games behind the Corn Belters for the lead. They just have your pitching start flowing with your offense a little more, because this team has produced all kinds of runs. You got a guy like Taylor Ard, 24 home runs in a league that's not as played as long as MLB. I think that's pretty good, even though you're not facing the same amount of talent there. It's still hard to hit 24 home runs anywhere. So they have to finish strong, and it's going to just be like the Cardinals. They're going to have to find a guy in that bullpen down the stretch to stabilize the bullpen. I mean, you're down to 12 games. So you're starting to get into a big stretch. And you go on a nice little lower team, worst team, kind of like with the Cardinals are going to jump to when they hit Arizona. They play the Winter City Thunderbolts on Tuesday. That's on the road, and then they come back home and play the Lake Erie Crushers. So some time to make up some ground on the Corn Belters and maybe get to that first place spot, which the Rascals are one of the best teams in that league and have been over the past few years. I think it was this last year, maybe 2 years ago, is when they won the Frontier League Championship. But they need some kind of stabilization for that pitching staff. And for them, you got to find it. That's kind of league where you got to find certain things like that to make your team better. So, like I said, you got a nice little stretch here just to win the city next week, and you end the week with Lake Erie to try to pick up some ground. Well, since we last talked, St. Louis FC, the soccer team's played in 3 games. The first one was on the road, 1-1 against the Charlton Battery. And you kind of got lucky this game is what happened when they did. Because if you would have, they lost 2 players in the last minutes or so. The 84th minute they were down to 10 in stoppage time. They went down to 9. So you're putting your best stuff in bad situations definitely when you're at your worst. And them in the games, it seemed like they hurt you St. Louis FC. And you got lucky. Jameel Hardware, who's been playing great of late, got you to go, kept the game, and you kept the game to where when you lost some players that you didn't lose. Alex Kahn with the forced save, who seemed like he's kind of taken over that goalie position. And you could tell these guys are starting to get tired. substitutions are starting to happen a little earlier in the games. You're getting some guys that you from Chicago FC to help give you a little more help. But they have to start closing out some of these games. They still have a chance to make it in the playoffs because of what they did Thursday with down 2-0 at home at Worldwide Technology Park. In the 33rd minute, Mike Emsley scores to put them down 2-1. And then Sam Feek on a cross on Patch of Duty scores in the 83rd minute. And then in the 90th minute, on the brink of another tie game, Ann Horton, the substitution, came in late in the game, comes in, scores a goal for you, puts you up. And then, where they're usually bad at the end of the games, they hold on even though it's in stoppage time. And keep the team they weren't even close in that towards the end of the game, which is something you don't see. It seems like in them games, St. Louis FC starts to wear out. But they didn't in this one. I mean, kind of only had to make 2 saves. But, you know, a lot of shots in soccer go over the net, things like that. You know, it's a lot more work than most people would think. But they did fall last night as they played. And I didn't write down who they played. But they played last night and lost 2-0. Alex Codd had 4 saves. They have 26 points in the USL, 6-10-8. 6 points behind Pittsburgh Riverhounds for a playoff spot. And their next game's August 30th, 5:30 at Rochester, playing the Rochester Rhinos. So, big games definitely for both of the independent teams, River City and St. Louis FC, coming up. So, big. Not only do you have a chance for the Cardinals to make a good run this season, now you got a chance for even your independent teams to make some runs and get into the playoffs. All right, let's hit it to weird news. As in Kentucky, 44-year-old Michael May was arrested Monday after an officer saw him digging up a grave in Stanford Fork, Kentucky. May told arresting officers he was trying to dig up the grave of his father so he could argue with him. May was charged with violating gangs, public intoxication, marijuana possession, and he was locked in the Lincoln County Jail. In his quote, in a jailhouse interview, May decided to quote Bible verses to, whatever that is, to, hey, the Bible told me to do this kind of stuff. Now, me and my dad don't argue. We're a little too old for that kind of crap, I guess, anymore. But man, what kind of argument were you guys having when he died that you had to go dig him up to yell at him again? I mean, golly. You can't, like, try to pray to him, maybe? Try to, like, do some stuff through God or something? I don't know. That's just a weird story. Good time for weird news. Police say an upstate New York man had his 10-year-old drive with him Saturday, and he sat in the passenger seat of his pickup truck drunk. Police were contacted by a motorist who saw the child driving the truck in Stillwater, New York on Route 9P. Police pulled up to the truck and found the 10-year-old behind the wheel and his father, 46-year-old John Barkley, in the passenger seat intoxicated. Police had the child picked up by a relative and charged his father with endangering the welfare of a child and permitting unlicensed operation of his motor vehicle. Police also contacted Child Protective Services. I've actually seen this a lot before. So for this to come out, I don't know how many of these come out, but I've seen it before, and I just don't understand. I mean, if you're a 10-year-old and you can drive, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think if I was 10, I would have loved that, but you can't do it, people. I mean, it is kind of funny, though. 3 of our states in our fine nation have had to change certain road signs on their highways. The states of Idaho, Colorado, and Washington have been replacing 420-mile markers on their highways, the ones that say 419.9. They had to replace these road signs multiple times because they keep getting stolen. Cops in Idaho said that they know that they're getting stolen by stoners for the apparent 420 signal call by cops. How'd you get away with that? How'd nobody see you? You had to be out there at the perfect time to go see a road sign off a highway. And it's the road signs that come up. They say 420.0 or 4, that are at every 0.2 miles which is just a big waste. I mean, the things you could have spent money on. I don't know if they're down there in the city. I'm going to guess they are. I guess that's a state thing. You wasted, gotta be billions of dollars. Billions of dollars on the stupid. Like, is it even work? Does the GPS? Do you need a GPS? Does the GPS, the mile markers help the GPS? That's all I wanted. And we got one from our great city. I like to end weird news with ones we find in St. Louis, and they're hard to find. I mean, you could go find some murder or something, or some retard robbing a bank. Those aren't all that fun. St. Charles, Missouri, a woman has been charged with scheming to murder her husband's pregnant girlfriend. Sherry Disney, 34, was charged with first-degree conspiracy to commit murder and distribution of a controlled substance. She was pulled over with the she was arrested, with the cash only $1 million bond. Police say she met with an undercover with last Wednesday at Bass Pro Drive, a little too close to home. She provided officers with pictures and keys to the victim's car and home. Dixie and the officer had made an agreement on a payment, and then she gave the officer morphine, anti-anxiety medication, of course, along with other drugs, and then $60 for the cost of the gun. The meeting was recorded, and Dixie later confessed to police that she had paid the undercover officer for the killing. Now, ain't that kind of fun? Bitches be crazy, man. Like, I wonder if that happens with I know it happens a lot. Remember the lady that got caught years ago in Texas? Wearing a diaper with her ropes and stuff in the trunk of her car. And it was an astronaut, I think, pretty sure, too. But, man. And then where do you look on Craigslist for this type of thing? Is there a Craigslist section for hitmen? Like, who do you think that you were getting when you said, hey, I want to kill my wife? I want to find somebody to do it. Or, excuse me, kill my girlfriend, my husband's mistress. Do you go to Craig? I mean, I would just think that most people just go to their friends and say, hey, I'm going to do this. And their friends were like, okay, whatever. Yeah, let's try it, you know? So, that is kind of funny to me. I know you guys been hearing a lot about this Deflate. That's the end of weird news. I know you guys been hearing about this Deflategate a lot. And this judge is tearing into the NFL. Judge Richard Berman has been destroying NFL lawyer Daniel Nash with responses to questions like there has to be a basic process of fairness that needs to be fulfilled. Berman argued to Nash after the NFL explained why it failed to allow Brady to question certain witnesses, notably General Counsel Jeff Parisi, who co-wrote the disputed Ted Wells report on deflated football. Now, in that release, Parsons put in there as the co-writer. That's the NFL release. The NFL lawyer just kept saying, it's just a release, just a release. Well, it's your release. You're the one that said it. And Brady should basically get to do whatever he wanted. And we're having a little issue here with the camera. And we'll just turn it the other way for now. But the NFL didn't even come here with a plan of action for this hearing. They didn't think that the judge was going to question him on this. Yet he did. I guess the NFL just thinks that there's some big powerhouse that are going to go against judges in the rest of the world. And they're not. And it looks like Tom Brady's going to come out of this looking like the good guy. And at the NFL, Roger Goodell's going to be facing so much screw. I mean, how is he going to handle this? He's going to have to get a right-hand man. He's just going to have to. He's going to have to get an assistant commissioner, at least to settle down what's going on. At least to have a guy, a fallback guy, a guy he could use for a fallback guy. Maybe just hire a bunch of them. Maybe that's what, like the Patriots did with the ball boys. If you can fire, you stay here. Take this, go to Hawaii, have fun. Go to a different country. Don't ever talk about this ever again. That's what could happen. I think that's a smart way to go for him. Because this case is over. Just questioning that right there. Why was Brady... And that doesn't even sounded like the process of a judge and jury was upheld. So this looks almost like what looked like almost an open and shut case for the NFL some time ago is now. Looks like an open and shut case for Tom Brady. So it's nice to see that. Now, if you've seen a little stuff that's been on social media today, you've seen that the great Sam Bradford got his start for the Eagles last night in their second preseason game and was hit hard by Terrell Suggs with live tackle Jason Peters calling it a cheap shot. Scruggs responded with, don't run a read option with your quarterback who's had 2 knee surgeries. He also said, when asked if it was a dirty hit, I could have hit him harder. I held up. That's the kind of stuff I like. That really is the kind of stuff that, like, I know that it's the NFL and blah, blah, he's allowed to do that because there's no other job you could talk like that. And he hasn't been scared to go after the NFL. He hasn't been scared to go after his boss. It's like, you know, stuff that you couldn't do if you had a real life job. So, it was kind of fun to see that. It's kind of fun to see that Bradford to go out there and the same thing that happened before is happening now. It's kind of funny that people think because you hit the freaking quarterback with 2 surgeries hard in the preseason that's it. I mean, come on, people. Really? You're that worried about hitting in the preseason and going to call it a cheap shot because he hit him hard? He hit him low. He didn't lead with his helmet. You know, he did his job. If they don't want that to happen in the preseason, don't play him in the preseason. Kind of what's happened with that stupid top girly who runs on the field in a fight after ACL surgery. Can't play in the games. He can't play in the games, but he can go out there and he can fight. I mean, God, the Rams are so stupid sometimes. And I know you're going to protect your teammates, rah, rah, yay for you. But come on. Your guy with ACL surgery, and you're going to let him run out there and throw punches? I mean, the great thing was Des Bryant got punched square in the face. I don't know by who. Looked like a safety. I thought it was T.J. McDonald, but that's not him. But whoever punched him, great pick. 10th pick of the draft. God. I probably look crazy on the camera right now because oh man, I just really, doesn't that get to you to see that? That a player that you hardly even want here is going out there with ACLs, making the money he does, going to make the money he does, being a first round pick. He could have wasted that on offensive line and anything else. He's going out there fighting in a brawl. And then he goes out there and he's getting pushed around and thrown around. You see his knee buckle. You almost have a heart attack if you're a Rams fan. Like, the pig! Alright, that's how we're gonna end. That's a great way to end. I think I'm just gonna, I'm gonna rant. We're gonna have the sports Greater STL rant in every show, I think. Alright, that's gonna do it. I'm Robert Bowlesby, and this has been the Sports Blog of the Greater STL Sports Network. Thank you for listening.